You know, I've always been the kind of guy who notices the little things, the way a shadow falls across a room at dusk, or how a familiar street sign might look just a tad off after a rainstorm. My name's Jacob Turner, and I'm 42 now, living in this quiet little town called Elmwood, nestled in the hills of upstate New York. It's the kind of place where everyone knows your name, where the autumn leaves paint the world in fiery reds and golds, and where nothing much ever changes. Or at least, that's how it used to be. But let me tell you something that's going to sound insane right from the start. One ordinary Tuesday morning, I woke up, and the world wasn't the same anymore. It was like someone had slipped in during the night and tweaked reality just enough to make me question my own sanity. I'm not talking about big, dramatic shifts, no alien invasions or apocalyptic skies. No, it was subtle at first, like those Mandela Effect stories you hear about online, where people swear Nelson Mandela died in prison, or that the Monopoly man had a monocle. Except this time, it wasn't a collective misremembering. It was real, and it started with my coffee mug. I remember that morning vividly, the way the sunlight filtered through my bedroom curtains, casting a warm glow on the hardwood floors. I'd lived in that old Victorian house on Maple Street for over a decade, ever since I moved here after my divorce. It was my sanctuary, filled with the echoes of creaky stairs and the faint scent of aged wood. I shuffled into the kitchen, yawning, and reached for my favorite mug, the one with the faded logo from that road trip to the Grand Canyon back in '05. But as my fingers wrapped around it, something felt wrong. The handle was on the wrong side. I mean, I'd held that mug 1,000 times. It was designed for right-handers like me, with the handle curving perfectly to the right. But now, it was mirrored, as if flipped in some invisible Photoshop. I blinked, set it down, and picked it up again. Still wrong. My heart did a little flip, but I chalked it up to sleep fog, maybe a trick of the light. Poured my coffee anyway, black and strong, and sat at the table, staring out at the backyard where the old oak tree stood sentinel. That's when the second thing hit me. The oak tree. My oak tree, the one I'd climbed as a kid when visiting my grandparents here before I bought the place. It looked different. The branches, which had always twisted upward like gnarled fingers reaching for the sky, now drooped slightly, as if burdened by some unseen weight. And there was a bird's nest in the lower crook that I'd never noticed before. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I was coming down with something. But no fever, no headache. Just this nagging sense that the world had shifted a degree or two while I slept. I finished my coffee, trying to shake it off, and headed to work. I'm a history teacher at Elmwood High, teaching kids about the past so they don't repeat it, ironic as that sounds now. The drive was the same route I'd taken for years, down Maple, left on Elm, past the diner where old Mrs. Hargrove waves from the window every morning. But as I pulled up to the school, my stomach twisted. The sign out front, the one that read, "Elmwood High School, home of the Eagles," now said, "Elmwood Secondary, proud Falcons since 1952. Falcons? We'd always been the Eagles. I had the yearbook photos to prove it, the mascot costume I'd worn at pep rallies back when I was a student here myself. I parked and stared at it, my hands gripping the wheel. A couple of kids walked by, laughing, their backpacks slung low. Everything else looked normal. The red brick building, the flagpoles snapping in the breeze. I got out, forced a smile for the principal, Mr. Ellis, who nodded as he passed. "Morning, Jake," he said casually. No hint that anything was amiss. Inside, my classroom felt off too. The map on the wall, the one of the United States I'd hung years ago. It showed the states as I remembered. But wait, was Michigan's Upper Peninsula always that shape? Slightly more elongated? I shook my head, dismissing it. Paranoia, that's all. Maybe I'd read too many conspiracy threads late at night. The day dragged on, but the unease lingered like a low hum in my chest. During lunch, I pulled out my phone and searched for Mandela Effect examples. You know, those weird collective memories that don't match reality. The Berenstain Bears spelled with an A instead of E, or Fruit of the Loom having a cornucopia that never existed. Reading them usually made me chuckle, but today it sent a chill down my spine. What if it wasn't just misremembering? What if reality was malleable? I laughed it off to myself, but when I got home that evening, the changes had escalated. My front door key stuck in the lock for a moment, as if the tumblers had been recalibrated. Inside, the living room rug, the Persian one I'd inherited from my aunt. Its pattern was inverted, the blues where red should be. I stood there, heart pounding, and that's when I heard it, a faint whisper, like wind through cracks, but there was no breeze. It sounded like my name, Jacob, drawn out and ethereal. I froze, listening. Nothing, just the house settling, I told myself. But as night fell, the whispers returned, intermittent and soft, coming from the walls or the vents. I couldn't tell. I checked every room, flashlight in hand, but found only dust bunnies and shadows. Sleep was fitful that night, dreams of shifting landscapes where roads led to nowhere and faces morphed into strangers. The next morning, it got worse. My reflection in the bathroom mirror, my eyes, always a deep brown, now had flecks of green I'd never seen. I leaned in close, breath fogging the glass, and for a split second, the face staring back blinked when I didn't. My pulse raced. I backed away, splashing water on my face. Outside, the neighbor's dog, Buster, who usually barked at me every dawn, just watched silently from the fence, his head tilted as if seeing me for the first time. Work that day was a blur. In class, I asked the kids about the school mascot casually, weaving it into a lesson on local history. Eagles, Mr. Turner, they chorused, but no, wait. One girl in the back, Sarah, frowned. Aren't we the Falcons now? I think they changed it last year. The room went quiet, and I felt eyes on me. Changed? No one had mentioned a change. I nodded, played it off, but inside, panic bloomed. After school, I drove to the library, the old stone building downtown that's been there since the 1800s. The librarian, Ms. Patel, greeted me warmly. I asked for yearbooks, pulling out the ones from my high school days. Flipping through, my breath caught. Every photo showed falcon mascots, not eagles. But I remembered painting the eagle banner myself in '98. Pages that should have yellowed were crisp, as if reprinted. That night, the whispers grew louder, forming words I couldn't quite make out. Fragments like shifted and awake. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, scrolling forums about reality glitches. People sharing stories that mirrored mine. One post stood out, a user claiming their town sign changed overnight, and soon after, people started vanishing, replaced by doppelgangers. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. Was that happening here? My ex-wife, Laura, we'd split amicably 5 years ago, still texted occasionally. I called her, voice shaky. Hey Jake, what's up? She said, sounding normal. I asked about our old vacation photos, the ones with the Grand Canyon mug. Mug? You mean the one from Yellowstone? Yellowstone? We'd never been there. The line went static for a moment, then clear. She laughed it off, but her voice seemed off-pitch, like an echo. By the third day, the changes were undeniable. Street names I'd known forever. Maple became Sycamore overnight, signs gleaming fresh as if always that way. Cars parked where they shouldn't, models I'd never seen in town. And the people, subtle shifts in their faces, a neighbor's smile too wide, eyes lingering too long. The whispers evolved into murmurs, circling me in bed, pulling me from sleep. I started documenting everything in a journal, photos on my phone, but when I checked them later, they matched the new reality. Erased, overwritten. Fear crept in like fog, thick and suffocating. What if I was next? What if I woke up tomorrow and I wasn't me anymore? It was on the fourth night that the real terror began. I was in the kitchen, making tea to calm my nerves, when the power flickered. In that brief darkness, I saw it, a silhouette in the corner, humanoid but elongated, watching. When the lights returned, gone. But the air felt heavier, charged. I barricaded myself in the bedroom, but sleep brought nightmares of parallel worlds bleeding into mine, where versions of myself screamed warnings I couldn't hear. Morning came, and my journal, pages I'd filled, were blank, as if never written. The tree outside now bore fruit it never had, red apples dangling like omens. Desperation set in. I confided in my closest friend, Mark, over coffee at the diner. Sounds like stress, buddy, he said, but his eyes darted, and for a moment, his face glitched, like a bad video feed, features blurring. I recoiled, excusing myself. Home felt alien now, rooms slightly larger, ceilings higher. The whispers coalesced into a voice, my own, whispering, "You're waking up. They're coming." Who? What? I paced, sweat beating, as dusk fell. That's when the knocking started, not on the door, but from inside the walls, rhythmic and insistent. I grabbed a flashlight, ventured into the basement, a place I rarely went, filled with boxes of old life. Dust motes danced in the beam, and there, in the far corner, a door I'd never seen before. Wooden, ancient, with carvings that shifted when I blinked, symbols like eyes watching back. My hand trembled as I approached, the knocking growing louder, vibrating through the floor. I touched the knob, cold as ice, and turned it slowly. The door creaked open to darkness, but not empty. A breeze wafted out, carrying scents of unfamiliar earth, and in the void, eyes gleamed, hundreds, staring hungrily. I slammed it shut, backing away, breath ragged. Upstairs, the house groaned, as if alive. That night, the changes accelerated. Furniture rearranged itself subtly. Photos on the walls showed me in places I'd never been, with people I didn't know. The mirror now reflected a version of me with that green-flecked gaze, smiling when I frowned. Terror gripped me fully. I was trapped in a shifting maze, reality unraveling thread by thread. By week 2, isolation set in. I called in sick to work, barricaded doors, but the world outside my window altered daily. Buildings taller, skies a shade bluer, birds flying in patterns that defied nature. The voice in the walls grew clearer. "Join us, Jacob. It's better here." "Join what?" I researched obsessively, finding whispers of reality bleed, where dimensions overlap, pulling souls through. Stories of people like me, vanishing without trace, remembered differently. One evening, as rain pattered, Elmwood never had such heavy storms. The silhouette returned, closer this time, in the hallway. It whispered my secrets, things only I knew, beckoning. I fled to the attic, heart thundering, and found an old trunk, unlocked now though it had been sealed. Inside, letters in my handwriting, dated future years, warning of the shift. "Don't open the door," one read. But which door? The basement one pulsed in my mind. Nights blurred into dread-filled vigils. The town folk now avoided me, their conversations halting when I approached, eyes knowing. Was I the anomaly, or were they? Paranoia peaked when I saw my reflection step out of sync, waving goodbye as I turned away. Then came the turning point, midnight. The knocking crescendoed, shaking the house. I descended to the basement, drawn inexorably. The door stood ajar, light spilling from within, not darkness, but a mirror world, vibrant yet wrong. And there, stepping through, was another me, smiling. "It's time," he said softly. His words hung in the air like a bad dream made flesh. "It's time." That other me, standing there in the threshold of the basement door, looked just like I did, down to the stubble on my jaw and the faded scar on my left hand from a childhood bike crash. But his eyes, those green-flecked ones that had invaded my own reflection, glowed faintly in the dim light spilling from that impossible other side. The air from the doorway carried a scent like ozone after lightning mixed with damp soil, pulling at me, whispering promises of answers. My feet were rooted, every muscle screaming to run, but curiosity, no, terror-fueled compulsion, kept me there. He extended a hand, identical to mine, veins mapping the same paths. "You've felt it, Jacob. The glitches, the whispers. This isn't your world anymore. Come through, fix it." I stumbled back, flashlight beam jittering across his face, which didn't flinch, didn't cast a shadow quite right. The knocking had stopped, replaced by a low hum, like reality's engine straining. "Who are you?" I managed, voice cracking. He smiled, teeth to even. "I'm you, the one who stayed awake." Then, without warning, the door swung wider, and beyond him, I glimpsed it. A mirror Elmwood, but sharper, colors too saturated, houses with extra stories, streets curving into impossible geometries. Shapes moved in the distance, humanoid but elongated, like the silhouette I'd seen. My double stepped forward, crossing the threshold fully into my basement, and as he did, the air rippled, my boxes shifting inches, labels rewriting themselves in real time. I bolted up the stairs, slamming the basement door, piling furniture against it. Heart slamming like a trapped animal, I sank against the wall, listening to footsteps, mine, pacing below. Sleep was out of the question that night. Every creak was him, every shadow his approach. Dawn broke with a sky that was wrong, two faint streaks of purple where clouds should be white. I peeked out the window. The street was empty, but cars sat differently, hubcaps gleaming with logos I'd never seen. No kids waiting for the bus, no Mrs. Hargrove walking her poodle. The silence pressed in, broken only by that voice now from upstairs, murmuring my memories back to me, ones I'd buried deep. The divorce, the night Laura left, the way I'd cried alone in this very house. It knew me too well. By noon, hunger forced me to the kitchen, where the fridge hummed unnaturally loud. Inside, food I'd bought days ago was gone, replaced by unfamiliar brands, cereals with boxes showing alternate histories, milk dated a week ahead. I grabbed my keys, determined to drive, to escape, maybe to Laura's in Albany. But the car, my old Ford pickup, reliable for 15 years, its dashboard now digital, gauges flickering with symbols like hieroglyphs. The engine turned over with a whine that wasn't mine, and as I backed out, the driveway seemed longer, the oak tree closer to the house than yesterday, its apples bruised and pulsing faintly. Halfway down Sycamore, what used to be Maple, a figure stood in the road, Mark, my friend, waving me down. I stopped, window cracked. "Jake, you okay? You look off." His face glitched again, skin rippling like water. "Mark, the school, Falcons or Eagles?" He blinked slowly. "Eagles, always been." "Why?" "Lie." I floored it, tires screeching, glancing back to see him standing statue still, joined by others emerging from houses, neighbors with synchronized smiles. The drive to the highway blurred into nightmare fuel. Billboards advertised movies I'd never heard of, stars with faces from half-remembered dreams. Radio static spat snippets of news. Authorities confirmed no anomalies in Elmwood sector, but the voice was mine, reporting. Gas station I pulled into had pumps labeled with fuels that didn't exist. Ethanol X, quantum blend. The clerk inside, a kid who looked like Sarah from class but older, rang me up without looking up. "That'll be 42.50, Jacob." My change came back in coins stamped with a double-headed eagle. Falcons? No. I fled, tank half full, onto the interstate. But exits multiplied, loops I'd never taken leading back to Elmwood signs. Hours passed, or minutes, sun looped oddly, setting twice. Phone died despite full battery, then rebooted to a home screen with apps for shift monitor and echo sync. Panic clawed deeper as night fell again. I abandoned the car on a side road, woods encroaching unnaturally fast, trees whispering as I passed, actual leaves rustling my name. On foot, flashlight cutting swaths through fog that tasted metallic. I aimed for the old mill ruins outside town, a place from childhood hikes. Safe ground, I thought. But arriving, the mill wasn't ruins, fully restored. Lights flickering within, laughter spilling out. Peering through cracked windows, I saw them, townsfolk, my students, even Laura, dancing to music that pulled at my bones, their movements jerky, like puppets on strings. And in the center, my double, arm around a woman who looked like my mother, dead 20 years, leading a toast. "To the new weave!" Glasses clinked, eyes turning as one to the window. I ran, branches snagging like fingers, until collapsing in a clearing. There, under moonlight fractured by unseen prisms, the ground softened. Not mud, something yielding, like flesh. I shone the light down, grass blades ending in tiny eyes, blinking up. They watched, unblinking now, as the whispers rose in chorus. "Resist not, merge." Dawn found me curled there, shivering, but alive. Back home, had to risk it. The house greeted me with open arms, literally, doors ajar, furniture reset perfectly, as if welcoming a prodigal. Inside, a note on the table, my handwriting. "Stop fighting. It's easier." The basement door barricade untouched, silent. But upstairs, in the attic, the trunk yawned open, letters spilling, dozens now, timelines branching, one dated tomorrow. I opened it. Don't. Days melted into a haze of vigilance. I boarded windows, rationed canned goods that multiplied overnight. Same labels, but heavier, contents shifting from beans to writhing shadows when poured. Dreams invaded waking hours, visions of infinite Jacobs, each choosing doors, worlds stacking like cards. The double's visits escalated, shadow under doors, breath on my neck in empty rooms. Once, in the mirror, he pressed from behind, palm to glass, syncing with mine until I couldn't pull away. Work emails piled up, Principal Ellis. "Jacob, your absence noted. Students missed the Falcon's spirit." I smashed the laptop, but it rebooted, screen showing live feed of my classroom, me teaching, gesturing, while I hid miles away? No, the empty house. Isolation bred madness. I scratched tallies on walls, proof of days, but they reset each morning, counts lower. Hunger gnawed, but eating felt like surrender. Water from taps ran backward once, spiraling up. The oak bore eyes and apples now, staring from branches. Town avoided, but drones buzzed, new, silent, scanning rooftops. Forums I'd bookmarked, gone, replaced by adjustment centers, sites promising. Seamless integration. One video looped, people like me, glitching, then smiling, fading into crowds. Week 3 peaked in terror. Storm hit, not rain, but shards of light-piercing clouds, illuminating fractures in the sky like cracked glass. Power out. I huddled by candlelight when the basement erupted, knocking thunderous, doors splintering despite barricades. Footsteps ascended, slow, deliberate. My double emerged at the top, casual in my spare clothes, holding my journal, filled now with his words. "You're tired, Jacob. Let go. This timeline's flawed. Ours is perfect. No divorce, no loneliness. Everyone whole." Behind him, silhouettes crowded the stairs, eyes gleaming. I backed into the kitchen, grabbing the knife, not to fight, but anchor. "This is my world," I whispered. He laughed, soft. Lightning flashed, and they surged. I fled out back through the orchard, apples bursting underfoot, releasing spores that burned lungs. Woods swallowed me, paths looping, but one veered new, toward the mill. Drawn, legs lead, I arrived as the party raged eternal. Inside, compelled, door opened to cheers. Faces turned, Laura's first, eyes green-flecked. "Jacob, you made it." They danced closer, hands cold, pulling me in. My double nodded from afar. Merge, bodies pressed, boundaries blurring, skin tingling, memories flooding, alternate lives, happy ones, but hollow. I felt myself dissolving, thoughts sinking, resistance fraying. But a spark held, the scar reopening. I wrenched free, shattering a window, tumbling into night. Running blind, brambles tearing, I hit pavement. Highway? Elmwood sign flickered, Welcome to Elmwood, Eagles forever. Eagles. A glitch? Car lights pierce fog. Mine? No, Mark's truck. Jake, get in. Real Mark? His face held, brown eyes steady. We sped, him silent, glancing back at pursuing shadows warping the road. You're the last holdout, he said finally. The bleed started months ago. Most adjusted. I waited for you. His cabin, miles out, was a bunker, walls etched with sigils that hummed, repelling whispers, supplies stocked, radio crackling warnings from others like us, pockets of reality clinging. It's not Mandela anymore, Mark explained, voice low. Something punched through. CERN? Quantum experiments? Doesn't matter. Worlds overlap, overriding weak spots. Elmwood's ground zero, thin veil here. He showed maps, shifts marked, states reshaping, histories rewritten. My mug? Test. The oak? Anchor point. We planned, disrupt the nexus, the mill, pulsing with energy. But nights brought assaults, dream incursions, doubles whispering doubts. One dawn, Mark glitched mid-sentence, features softening to the other. Fight it, I yelled, sigils flaring. He snapped back, sweating, trust frayed. Alone, I found his journal. If I turn, end it. Burn the mill. No. We armed, salt circles, relics from my trunk, a childhood cross, now humming. Infiltration night, storm raging, sky fractured fully, portals winking like eyes. Mill loomed, alive, windows breathing. Inside the weave, townsfolk in trance, bodies linked by glowing threads, my double at heart, conducting. Join, they chanted. We crept, sigils glowing faint. Mark faltered at door, too strong, glitched permanent, turning with sad eyes. Sorry, Jake. Alone, I pushed through, threads snagging soul, visions assaulting, perfect lives taunting. Double-faced me. End this. Merge. Climax built, threads tightening, my form fraying, but the scar burned, memory anchor. I lunged, cross plunging into console at center, old generator, reality hub. Sparks flew, threads snapping, screams echoing as bodies slumped, eyes clearing then blanking. Double lunged, but dissolved, screaming my name backward. Mill shuddered, collapsing inward. Escape blurred, woods parting, highway solid. Dawn normal, one sun, white clouds. Back home, sycamore reverted? No, maple. Oak branches up, no eyes. School sign eagles, mug handle right. But mirror eyes held green flecks, faint. Whispers gone, but echo lingers. Months later, Elmwood sleeps. I teach, smile, but watch. Changes creep back. Sign misspelled once, fixed by morning. Mark? Vanished, truck empty. Forums buzz. Bleed returning? Last night, basement door, gone. Wall solid. But in dreams he waits. Not over, Jacob. Timeline's infinite. Yours next. Is this peace or pause? I lie awake, feeling the shift itch beneath skin. What if tomorrow I wake as them? Listen close. The whisper starts again, soft. It's time. That whisper. It's time. It didn't just echo in my ears that night. It seeped into my bones, a cold current that made every nerve ending tingle with dread. I bolted upright in bed, sheets tangled around me like restraints, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The room was pitch black, save for the faint glow of the streetlight filtering through the curtains. But even that light seemed dimmer, as if the world outside was fading just a little more. I reached for the lamp, fumbling, and when it clicked on, the bulb hummed unnaturally, casting shadows that danced like they had a mind of their own. My name is still Jacob Turner, or at least that's what I tell myself these days, clinging to the scraps of who I used to be. Elmwood hasn't changed back completely, not really. The signs say eagles again, the streets are maple once more, but there's an undercurrent, a subtle wrongness that nags at me every waking moment. And now, with that whisper returning, I knew the bleed wasn't over. It was just biding its time, waiting for me to slip. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, feet hitting the floor that felt softer than it should, like walking on moss instead of wood. The clock on the nightstand read 3:17 a.m., but when I blinked, it jumped to 3:19, as if time itself had skipped a beat. I hadn't slept well since the mill incident, nights filled with half-dreams where I saw the double's face melting into mine, or the threads from that other world wrapping around my limbs, pulling me under. Mark's disappearance haunted me most. His truck found abandoned on the highway, keys in the ignition. A single sigil scratched into the dashboard like a final warning. I'd searched for him, driving those looping roads until the gas ran low, but he was gone, overwritten or merged or whatever hellish term fit. Now, alone in the house, I padded downstairs, the stairs creaking in a rhythm that almost sounded like footsteps trailing behind me. The kitchen was silent, the mug back to normal, but when I filled it with water, The liquid swirled counterclockwise, defying gravity just enough to make my stomach churn. Outside, the oak tree loomed, its branches now perfectly as I remembered, but the apples were still there, hanging low and heavy, their skins rippling faintly in the moonlight as if breathing. I stared at them from the window, glass cool against my forehead, and one fell, thud, rolling toward the house like it was drawn to me. I didn't pick it up. Instead, I backed away, grabbing my journal from the table. The pages were filled again, not with blanks, but with entries I didn't remember writing, dates from weeks ahead, describing shifts I hadn't experienced yet. The sky cracks at noon, one read. Faces in the crowd smile with too many teeth. My hand shook as I flipped through, ink still wet on the last page. How? The whispers grew, not from the walls this time, but from the book itself, pages rustling on their own. I slammed it shut, but the sound echoed too long, reverberating through the house like a call. By morning, I forced myself to act normal. Showered, dressed, drove to school. The kids were back to their routines, laughing in the halls, but Sarah, that girl who'd mentioned the falcons, avoided my gaze, her eyes darting away like she knew something. In class, I lectured on historical anomalies, events that history books got wrong, but my voice faltered when a student asked about parallel universes. Theoretical, I said, but the word tasted like a lie. Lunch in the staff room, Mr. Ellis clapping me on the back. Good to have you back, Jake. Towns feeling right again. His grip lingered, fingers cold, and for a split second, his shadow on the wall didn't match his pose. It stretched longer, fingers claw-like. I nodded, excusing myself, heart racing as I hurried to my car. The drive home felt longer, roads bending just a hair more than usual, signs flickering in my peripheral vision. That afternoon, the first new glitch hit. I was in the backyard, raking leaves that had fallen overnight. Too many for this time of year, when the ground trembled subtly, like a distant train passing. But Elmwood had no tracks. I froze, rake in hand, and watched as the soil near the oak parted slightly, a thin crack forming, exhaling a mist that smelled of wet earth and something metallic. From the fissure, a vine emerged, slow at first, then accelerating, twisting up the tree trunk with leaves that shimmered iridescent, colors not found in nature. I backed away, but it reached out a tendril, brushing my ankle, cold, alive, sending a jolt through me like static. Visions flashed. Another Elmwood, this one overgrown, buildings swallowed by foliage that pulsed with light. I yanked free, running inside, slamming the door. The vine didn't follow, but from the window, I saw it weave into the branches, apples now glowing softly, like lanterns in the dusk. Night fell quicker than it should, sky bruising to purple hours early. I barricaded myself in the living room, curtains drawn, but the whispers infiltrated anyway. Clearer now. The veil thins, Jacob. See what's beyond. I turned on the TV for noise, but channels flickered to static, then broadcasts I didn't recognize. News anchors with my face, reporting on. Dimensional stability restored, anomalies contained. One segment showed the mill, rebuilt overnight, crowds cheering as threads of light wove through the air. I switched it off, but the screen lingered on, reflecting my room but with extra furniture, shadows moving independently. Panic rising, I grabbed my phone, dialing Laura again. Static, then her voice. Jake, it's late, but background noise. Music from the mill party. Where are you? I asked. Home, why? Lie. The line cut, replaced by laughter echoing from the receiver. Sleep evaded me, replaced by a trance-like state where I wandered the house, finding doors unlocked that I'd secured. In the attic, the trunk was open again, letters multiplied, now including photos. Me with a family I never had, kids smiling with green eyes. One image showed me at the mill, arm raised in toast. I burned them in the fireplace, flames leaping higher than natural, smoke forming shapes that watched me back. By dawn, exhaustion claimed me, but dreams pulled me deeper, walking endless corridors of shifting walls, doors leading to versions of my life, happy, broken, monstrous. In one, I was the double, beckoning originals through. Waking, the house felt heavier, air thick like syrup. Outside, the vine had spread, encircling the oak, tendrils probing the house foundation. Neighbors passed, waving, but their steps synced, like a programmed routine. I ventured out, needing supplies, but the diner was changed, menu items foreign, Mrs. Hargrove behind the counter with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Coffee, Jacob? Black, like always. But she poured it red, steaming with an aroma of berries and blood. Wait, no, just coffee, but wrong. I left without drinking, driving to the library. Ms. Patel wasn't there. Instead, a man who looked like Ellis but taller, shelves rearranged, books on, timeline maintenance, where history texts should be. I grabbed a yearbook, Falcons again, pages flipping on their own to show me as principal. Home became a prison. The vine breached the walls by evening, slithering through cracks, leaves unfurling inside, eyes blinking from stems. Whispers from them now. Grow with us. Evolve. I hacked at them with shears, but they regrew faster, sap sticky and warm. Upstairs, my bedroom mirror cracked spontaneously, shards reflecting fragmented MES, some screaming, some laughing. I covered it with a sheet, but it billowed like breath from behind. Calls to outside numbers failed, lines looping back to my own voice. Hang up, Jacob. Stay. Week 4, or was it 5? Broad escalation. Sky fractured again, but daytime now, cracks letting in glimpses of other skies, starry voids, endless storms. Town folk gathered outside my house, silent vigil, eyes reflecting the anomalies. Come out, one murmured, voice like Mark's. I peeked. They held apples, offering. The vine inside bloomed flowers that sang soft lullabies, luring me closer. Touching one, visions assaulted, merging complete, me as part of the weave, content in oblivion. I resisted. But weakness grew, food tasted ash, water evaporated in my mouth. Despair peaked one midnight. Whispers unified. Open the door. Basement solid no more. A seam appeared, glowing. Drawn, I descended, finding the door reformed, carvings alive, writhing. Knob turned itself, revealing the mirror world again, but closer, overlapping. My double waited, not alone, hundreds, variants of me, extending hands. Choose one, they chorused. Any us. The pull was magnetic, promising end to isolation. I stepped forward, foot crossing threshold, body tingling as realities blended. Memories flooded, lives unlived, joys untasted, almost surrendered. But the scar, that old bike crash mark, flared hot, grounding me. No, I whispered, pulling back. Door slammed, but not before a piece crossed, a shadow self lingering in my periphery. Now it follows, mimicking movements with delay, whispering alternatives. Town stabilizes, but I see the seams, people glitching mid-step, skies flickering. Months pass. I teach, but lessons veer to warnings veiled as history. Sarah approaches one day. Mr. Turner, I remember falcons too. Hope or trap? We meet secretly, sharing stories, forming a fragile resistance. But whispers warn, more come. Last night, vine flowers bloomed in my bed, petals spelling. Soon, is this the end, or another layer? The double shadow smiles from corners. Listen, the whisper evolves. For all time now. I close my eyes, feeling the shift begin anew.